I'm Alan Murray and I'm a lecturer in Business and Enterprise at University of the West of Scotland, and I'm going to take you through a brief overview of the type of support that's available if you're thinking of setting up or growing your own business. And that support falls largely into one of four categories. We have business advice, networking opportunities, access to finance, and lastly, incubation. Now, if we look first at the sources of advice that you can tap into, we need to think in terms of informal advice, and we also need to look at professional business advice. Now, informal advice can be extremely useful in terms of gaining some insight into how businesses operate. And that type of advice is likely to come from anywhere within your existing network of contacts. But what you have to be aware of is that it's not the truth, and what's right for them may not be right for you, and their experience might not be your experience. So you need to look critically at this type of advice and decide whether there's real value in what they're telling you. A safer option is to seek out professional business advice, and for most people that would lead us to Business Gateway. But they're not the only organisation within the enterprise network. PTYBS, or Prince's Trust Youth Business Scotland, is tasked with helping young people, 18 to 30-year-olds, set up and continue in business. And the nature of that support is in the form of very soft loans and in some cases grant funding, and also they provide business mentoring support for the business in the first 2 years. Business Gateway is the lead enterprise agency, and they provide access to funding. They're not a direct funder themselves, they access funding through intermediaries. So they'll help you develop your business plan and put together your funding package, and they'll also provide you with a range of training opportunities in the area of business skills such as sales and marketing and managing your finances. Entrepreneurial Spark is an incubation unit, and incubators provide a range of support services to their tenants. So if you're not actually locating your business within an incubator, these are services that generally you can't access. If you're starting your business within the higher education sector, it's likely that you'll come across SIE or Young Enterprise Scotland, and these are two organisations that are tasked with supporting entrepreneurial activity amongst the student body, and they can add a lot of value to any business idea. And lastly, if there's any gaps that need plugged, it's likely that your own institution would be able to pull in a range of support services to help you grow your business. So now if we look at networking opportunities, there's three areas we need to think about: open, closed and online. And we've got some examples here. Now, if we look at open networks, a good example would be the Chamber of Commerce. Now that's a network that's open to anyone to simply pay a fee and then come along to any of the networking opportunities, and hopefully they would be able to generate some sales opportunities from that. So it's really about being able to do business with like-minded people. BNI operates in a fairly similar way, but it's a closed network, so they only allow one of each type of business within each group or chapter. So if you're an electrician, there would only be one electrician within that chapter. And that can be quite powerful, because what they're really trying to do is generate referrals that will hopefully translate to sales. The FSB is, again, another open network, and it's a membership opportunity whereby there's a package of benefits that the business owner can tap into, and some of these benefits are networking opportunities. But we also need to think about online networks, and again we need to be quite critical about the information that we find in online networks, because again it's not the truth. So we need to use our own judgment to see where the value is in online networks. And lastly, we need to think about sources of finance, and for us we're talking about either internal or external. And in general terms, internal sources of finance include things like personal capital, money from friends and family, and any working capital that we've actually generated through the business. We refer to that as bootstrapping. When we're talking about external finance, we're really talking about loans. And these loans are accessed through traditional lenders like the banks, or other lenders such as Prince's Trust Youth Business Scotland. Equity finance for most people is not a route that they would go down. This involves giving up a share of the business in return for capital to allow you to grow the business. So while it's a route for some people to go down, it's not the norm for most of us. And lastly, we need to think about public finance, which for most people means grants. Grants are free sums of cash that don't need to be paid back. And it's important to remember that grants are few and far between. They're changing all the time, and that each grant is discretionary. There's no automatic entitlement to any grant. Now, regardless of what your particular needs are in terms of finance for the business, your Business Gateway advisor will work with you to put together the most appropriate package of funding. And any potential fund in the business is looking to basically answer 4 questions. Is there a business there at all? Does it have a reasonable chance of success? Could it be profitable? And can you gather all the resources you need to actually make the business work? And if you can answer yes to all of these questions, then you've got a reasonable chance of getting your business off the ground.